Good evening, konbanwa, minasan, welcome. I'm really excited to welcome you all tonight to our event. My name is Madeline Adams, your MC and host for the night. We are, welcome to the Tennessee-Japan Forum, Getting to Know You, Tennessee-Japan Sister Cities, a round screen discussion presented by the Japan-America Society of Tennessee. I'm very excited to be joined this evening by representatives from 5 Tennessee Sister Cities organizations who have a passion for strengthening partnerships at the grassroots level. Those organizations are the Athens Friendly City Sister Cities Committee, the Sister Cities Mikawa McMinnville, Sister Cities of Nashville, the Town of Smyrna Sister City Committee, and the Tsuru-Hendersonville Friendship Committee. I'll be introducing the members presenting on their behalf as we move along this evening. Think of it as a virtual trip around Tennessee and Japan as we learn about their unique histories, successful initiatives, and future plans. Before the end of this evening's event, after hearing from each of these amazing presenters tonight, we will have time for questions. If you have a question, go to the bottom of your screen, click on the panels, click the Q&A, and type your question in there. I will do my best to catch every one of those questions and ask them of our panelists tonight. Of course, we have to say thank you. Thank you to all of you joining us, whether you're here live on Tuesday night, or if you are joining us afterwards, where the video will be posted on the Japan-America Society of Tennessee YouTube page. So pass it on to your friends and family who can't make it here tonight right now. But definitely many thanks to our promotional partner, the Tennessee World Affairs Council. We can't do, and JAST can't do events like this without incredible sponsors and partnerships. Now, to kick us off, it is my pleasure to introduce Seth Sumner, City Manager, City of Athens. Seth's presentation will be about the Athens Friendly City Sister City Committee. Seth, you've already started your video. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madeline. It's wonderful to be with you. And it is a tongue twister. You did a great job trying to manage that. The Friendly City Sister Cities Committee. And I might have done that on purpose. So our committee is a reboot of a Sister Cities committee. Our sister city is Isahaya, and this relationship started in the early 80s, 1980s, and was strong through the 90s and into the 2000s. And I'm not quite sure where the relationship kind of parted, and that was probably maybe budgetary concerns or something like that on our part. But it was wonderful when I started as city manager of Athens just over 4 years ago, that one of my early memories was a welcome card from the mayor of Isahaya. So they were still paying attention and still had a relationship, but our Sister Cities committee had kind of withered. So we brought that back 2 years ago. We do have a $10,000 annual budget with the Athens City Council. Our local university, Tennessee Wesleyan University, also has a sister university, Nagasaki Wesleyan University. And so we strengthen that partnership with education at the university and on the municipal level with the Friendly City. And so we have incorporated not only higher education, but we have our own city school system that goes through 8th grade. We have brought them into the mix and make sure that they have representation. And since we started 2 years ago, you can guess that we have not made a trip recently to Isahaya to visit our friends. We have looked at trying to put that together, and through the pandemic, of course, put all of that on hold. But in 2019, when we really just kind of kicked everything back off, we were very blessed to welcome 21 high school students from Isahaya that are tied into Nagasaki Wesleyan at Shinsei Gakuin. And I know I'm murdering the words, so please, a little bit of grace with you. I have not been to Japan and did not study, but I am really excited to have this relationship historically with our communities and understand, as I am a member of the International City Management Association and I serve on the international committee, at how powerful the relationships between communities can be around the world and the need for partnership to understand each other, our cultures, so we can be better people and be better servants here at home. So I'll jump around a little bit. Forgive me for that, but we did welcome these 21 high school students, and they were set up at the university here in town. And I was thinking, what's a good Southern way to welcome students, high school students? And I love doing low country bowls. And so I open up my garage, and we have tables spread out, and I did a low country bowl: shrimp, potatoes, crabs. We chopped open some watermelon. I'm learning new words from our friends that are visiting, and it's a beautiful time that they visited in that summer. Uh, let me talk a little bit more about some of the advocacy that we do. Restarting this relationship is making sure that we were back in contact with the mayor's office in Issahiah, and that we had a staff contact and we could open up email. And that took some exploring to do. And thankfully, I was able to connect with the right person. And so we keep in contact with emails. We are hoping and planning, when it's safe to do so, that we're able to arrange for a visit from Athens to Issahiah and take a visit of Nagasaki Wesleyan as well. We have city streets in both of the communities. We have a Issahiah Street here in Athens, and they have an Athens Street in Issahiah. We have started a scholarship with Tennessee Wesleyan University to help bring students from Issahiah and Nagasaki Wesleyan over to Tennessee Wesleyan. We are also working on building an exchange program with our middle school, with our 8th graders. We would like to see in place in the next 2 years. We have funding in place. We have the will. We have all the right people on board. And so we're really, really excited about starting back down this path. And hopefully we'll all be safe to travel in the very near future. And I started down the path of advocacy. We have Pumpkin Town is our biggest festival every year, 15,000 people. So we set up a booth at Pumpkin Town for our Friendly City Sister Cities, and we have some items from Issahiah on display. But then we also do something fun, like painting rocks and hiding them around town. That's something that's big in both of our communities. And then we also had a local painter do some kanji for us. And so we have our names in kanji on fans, and kids and families can do that. I have my whole family here with me. And then we get to know a little bit more of the cultural differences in our names and pronunciations and specific meanings of those syllables, which is incredible. Mine was the coolest name ever. I believe that it was along the lines of Seju, which I was told means world protector. So city manager, world protector. I think that's probably about all the same. But we set up this booth and we welcome folks and introduce folks. We also have an exhibit right now at the McMinn County Living Heritage Museum right here in town. It's a sister city exhibit. So we brought out a lot of our gifts and items from the trips. There's videos from when we had visits here and visits there that are playing in that exhibit. And so we're really doing what we can during this time to make sure that folks are paying attention to these relationships and that they are knowledgeable of our connection half a world away in Japan, and how close our communities really truly are.
That sounds so exciting. And I'm going to put Pumpkin Fest on my calendar to come visit. What time of year do you host it? So we can put it, on our calendars.
It's October.
Perfect, because I love that collaboration and the working with both communities and bringing some Japanese culture to the festival, because festivals are huge in the Japanese culture. Every town, every area have their own festivals. And that's what I loved when I lived there, was traveling to the tiny little villages and towns, and the food and learning and just experiencing. So it's really exciting. I also love hearing that you're bringing the education into the elementary schools and the middle schools. And it's not just at the university level with that sister city relationship with the universities. So that makes me really excited.
Biggest, if I may interject, I left out one of the biggest economical advantages that we have in this partnership is that through the 1980s, as this developed, we actually were successful in recruiting a Japanese industry to the city of Athens. And today it is by far our largest industry, our largest property taxpayer, and our best industrial citizen. And that's
Perfect.
Denso Manufacturing.
I love it. The cross-cultural, it's amazing. Maybe one day, one thing that you guys do in Athens can live in the town over there. So you guys can have that true cultural cross collaboration. So Seth, thank you so much for sharing. I know we've got some great questions for you a little bit later, and we might have some questions from the audience as well. Go ahead and close your video and unmute yourself. And I want to introduce our next presenter, Leanne Stewart. Go ahead and take off video and unmute. And Leanne Stewart is the chairperson of the McMinnville, not McMinn County, but McMinnville Mikawa Sister Cities Board of Directors. Leanne, please, you've already unmuted, go ahead. And I know that we've got some presentation to share as well. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
All right. Konbanwa, watashi wa Leanne Stewart desu. Peyton, if you want to put up the first slide, that would be great. All right, thank you. I am the chairperson for the Warren County McMinnville Sister Cities. Our relationship began in 1993 with our relationship with Mikawa Machi. McMinnville, for those of you who don't know, is in southeastern Tennessee. It's halfway between Nashville and Chattanooga. Slide 2, please. McMinnville itself has a population of about 14,000, and our county, which is the county seat, has a population of around 40,000. Slide 3. And McMinnville is a very rural agricultural town. We are the nursery capital of the world. And our sister city, slide 4, is Mikawa, and it is in the Yamagata prefecture, which is on the western coast of the main island of Honshu. 5th slide, please. Mikawa's population is about 7,500, and they too are the seat of their prefecture's general branch office. And slide 6. They too are a very rural agricultural town. So I guess our twin cities were well suited for each other. Each summer, we host an annual exchange. 10 of our students and 2 chaperones and 10 Mikawa students and their 2 chaperones are selected to participate. On our end, it is open to 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students. So 13, 14-year-olds is about the age of the students who are participating. And every other year, our towns alternate hosting and visiting responsibilities. We have an annual exchange that lasts 10 to 14 days, depending on schedules. The visiting students are paired with a host buddy and their host family. Whichever is the visiting, when they first arrive in their visiting country, there's a gateway city that they tour in. So when our visitors come here, they fly first to Washington, D.C. We have a group that goes and meets them. They spend a night or two in D.C. and tour. When we go to Japan, we go to Tokyo for a day or two. And then we go on out to Mikawa or McMinnville, and the students are staying in the host homes of the buddy that they have been paired with. So Peyton, if you want to start the other slides, and then you can just let them roll starting at 7. So the pictures that you'll be seeing as I'm talking are some of the pictures from previous exchanges and hostings that we've had. During the day, there are group activities that the point is to introduce the students to things that are indicative of the area, the food, the activities, the culture. When we are in Japan, some of the examples, and Peyton, if you can just keep those sliding, I'll cover some of the ones that are pictures up there. When we go to Japan, we've participated in traditional tea ceremonies, a Maiko dance ceremony, which are the geishas in training. We have climbed Mount Haguro, which is one of the 3 sacred mountains of the Dewa Sensan. We do actually get to go to the schools while we are in Mikawa. Their schools are still in session, and they're having club and sports activities. And so our kids get to see what traditional Japanese school looks like. It's always amazing how clean the schools are. The students are responsible for cleaning the schools. So that kind of makes a great impression, at least on the adults in the group. I don't know about the kids themselves, but the kids do get to participate in some of the club activities like kendo and judo while they're there at the schools. Things we've done when we bring them here. Again, we try to expose them to things that we have in our area. So we've been hiking at Rock Island. Most recently, we took them to visit the Isha Center. We go kayaking. We've gone to Cumberland Caverns. We take day trips to Nashville or Chattanooga, been to baseball games, the aquarium, things like that. The chaperones get in on the act. That's one of the pictures you're seeing now. So we entertain them as well. It's a balancing act of entertaining everybody without overscheduling, because the point of it is to foster these relationships and have the kids form these bonds. And so we want them to really be able to experience what life is like in a typical American family, and similarly in a Japanese family. And so we build in time in the evening so that they're with their host families, and there's a host family weekend. And ideally, the visiting kind of comes full circle, meaning that our students get to stay with the families that they have hosted. And I personally have experienced that myself with my girls. They each got to stay, and we hosted as well. And so that's really neat. I personally first became involved in the program in 2012 when my oldest of our 3 daughters hosted. And then I began serving on the board in 2014. All 3 of my daughters have hosted, and they've all 3 gotten to go. And I've been very fortunate to get to chaperone the group 2 different times on trips to Mikawa. Our funding is totally donation based. I apply for nonprofit funding requests from the city of McMinnville and Warren County each year. And they are usually able to support us some. Also, I petition with local companies to either make monetary donations or to sponsor activities. If we're doing a kayaking, perhaps they would pay for the boats that we needed or sponsor lunch for us. Unfortunately, as with everybody, COVID has kind of put a damper on things. We had to postpone our exchange last year, the summer's exchange. We just spoke last week with my contacts in Mikawa, and their group made the decision that they're not comfortable coming. And so the only other time in the history of our program since it began in 1993 that the program has been paused was the summer following the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. So all very unfortunate. Hopefully next summer will bring different things and we will be able to resume our program. So that's just a little bit about us. Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Leanne, thank you so much for sharing. It warms my heart to hear about Yamagata, and I've never been to Mikawa, but I living in Fukushima. That nuclear disaster was hit close to home, so to speak. It was close to the area where I lived in Fukushima. And so it's unfortunate that was the 1 year that was paused for you guys, but great to know that area, Tohoku in the northern region of Japan, has had some really incredible rebirth since then and regrowth. So I'm confident that next summer will happen. And what's really wonderful about experiences like this is now it's not necessarily limited to 10 students, that you can really, the virtual world has opened up so much. So it's great. And I also just learned that the Nashville Cherry Blossom Festival had a 10-year campaign to plant 1,000 cherry trees in the area. And we did it in 9 years, which is wonderful with the Cherry Blossom Festival. However, I learned that those trees that were provided came from a nursery in McMinnville. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes. So we export a lot of things, and similarly, Mikawa does too. They have some very famous things that their area is known for. So that, again, another tie-in of our cities.
That's exciting. And cherry blossom season is almost upon us. So any day now, someone reminded me. So keep your eyes peeled for those cherry blossom trees. They happen overnight, seemingly. So Leanne, thank you so much. I've got some more questions later. Go ahead and close your video and mute. And next up, I'm really excited to welcome three candidates next. So we have, or three participants. We have Sarah Lingo, Celeste Wilson, and Mina Johnson. Go ahead and unmute yourself and start your videos. Celeste Lingo is the executive director of the Sister Cities of Nashville, and Celeste and Mina are the on the committee for the Nashville, Japan sister cities. So we see Mina, we see Sarah. Celeste, I see you are unmuted if you want to start your video or just jump on in.
I have a message that says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Okay. Oh, got it. So we will have Peyton behind the scenes. Go ahead and do that. So until then, Sarah and Mina, unmute yourself and jump right in.
Or I can actually go ahead and start. Because since three of us are presenting, we thought we'd divide it up, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history, and Mina-san is going to talk a little bit about what we've done lately, and Sarah's going to address the future. But we're very fortunate because we started in 2009. I think Eko Ishii is a part of this audience tonight. Our Japanese consul general moved from New Orleans to Nashville, and when he arrived, and we used to call him Mr. Personality. His name was Sato-san. And Sato-san had three wishes when he moved to Nashville. He wanted to start a cherry blossom festival. He wanted to start a sister city relationship. And he wanted to learn the guitar. And by the time he left, he had accomplished all three. And what's fun about Sato-san is that he gathered a whole group around him, which really helped embellish the desire to create this sister city relationship. He was from Kamakura, and that's why Kamakura became our sister city. Luckily, fortunately, Kamakura had an artistic bent to it, so that there were lots of commonalities between the two. And so Kamakura is an artist colony. We, of course, are a music city. And it was really interesting that it took from 2009 to 2014 to establish the final relationship. So on September 20th, 2014, Mayor Carl Dean went to Japan and we formalized a relationship. But before that happened, several delegations went to Japan, including the head of our Chamber of Commerce and some musicians from Nashville. So we established this grassroots relationship from a very early point. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mina-san, who's going to talk a little bit about what's happened since we've had the sister city relationship.
Good evening. Hi. So my role at the Kamakura committee is I'm a coordinator and tour guide in chief. So there's some things I have done. So in 2016, I took a small group of people who are in Tokyo attending South Eastern US conference. And so I took them for a half-day tour, sightseeing tour to Kamakura. So we road train and enjoy seeing Big Buddha and some Japanese souvenir shopping. So in 2017, the delegation from Kamakura came to visit Nashville. So they performed country music at the Nashville Cherry Blossom Festival. Also, the band performed at the Nashville Airport. At the Nashville Airport, they do have a concourse stage. So while their band is performing at the Nashville Airport, they turned the concourse into a temporary line dance hall. So in 2018, I had a pleasure taking a group of 23 people from Nashville to Kamakura. 23 people include former Mayor Briley, a couple of Supreme Court justices and Metro Council member, and some doctors. And we had a blast. We are welcomed by Kamakura Nashville Friendship Association and Mayor Matsuo and city official. We enjoyed traditional Japanese food and dance and music, entertained by Kamakura Nashville Friendship Association and also City of Kamakura. And also we visited old shrine and temple, attended tea ceremony and zazen meditation. And so that's the fun part. I really enjoy those coordinating and leading those tours. So we are looking forward to visiting there when, again, safe to travel. So I'm going to turn over to Sarah now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lingo, and I'm the Executive Director of Sister Cities of Nashville. I had the pleasure of joining right before the pandemic hit. So I have been thrust into a virtual world, so like all of us have. So I feel everyone's pain. Serendipitously, Kamakura was one of the very first places I traveled solo when my first time out of the country, or one of my first times out of the country. So Kamakura kind of found me before I found Kamakura. And so I feel like I've really come full circle with that relationship. Now it's a sister city that I have the pleasure of really making connections and working with. So anyway, fun fact. But like Mina and Celeste were saying, so much of the lifeblood of our connection with Kamakura was in-person exchanges. So we've really had to pivot this past year, like I know everyone has. So I wanted to tell you all a little bit about what we've done virtually and what we have coming up. Last summer, we had the pleasure of participating in the 75th anniversary ceremony of the atomic bombing of Japan. And we were lucky enough to have St. George's Episcopal Church, which is a very large church here in Nashville, ring their bell 75 times, which could be heard really far across the city. And we got local news coverage for that event. We had the new Consul General ring her bell. And it was just a really lovely way to mark the friendships that have grown between all of our cities and Japanese cities over the past 75 years, really. So really proud of that moment. I would like to invite you all. Another thing that we're doing on March 26th, we have done a lot of programs with the Women's Political Collaborative that focus on women in government around the world. And we're doing a program on March 26th at noon that will feature the Consul General of Japan here in Nashville. We're really excited about that. I'm sure most of you know the new Consul General is a woman, and it will be really fun to hear from her about what it's like to serve as a female in a diplomatic role. We are planning a virtual ramen dinner in the future. So please keep up to date on our website, scnashville.org, for those events. And we're hoping to announce a really fun project with the Cherry Blossom Festival in the coming days. So I hope you stay in tune with us. And I think that's everything that I have to announce.
Ladies, thank you so much. Celeste, Sarah, and Mina, it's really wonderful hearing more, not just about Kamakura and how the partnership started, which was a personal connection. And also I love the communal, what brings everybody together is music and culture. So it's great to have that connection. And Sarah, thanks for telling more about Sister Cities of Nashville. I know I'm looking forward to some of those events coming up, so I'll keep an eye out for that. Go ahead and stop your videos and unmute yourself. And next up, I want to introduce Mark Michelson, who is, go ahead and unmute and turn on your video. Mark is the vice chairman of the Town of Smyrna Sister City Committee, and he is going to tell us a little bit about Smyrna Sister City Partnership.
Well, thank you. First, I want to give a little bit of history. Our program is set up very similar to what Leanne does, got a little bit of what Seth does. We have a little bit of what everybody does. One of the things different from us in Leanne's group is we have 20 students that we have on the exchange with 5 chaperones, and we go 1 year there, the next year they come here, and the third year we rest and prepare for the next cycle. So we're on a 3-year cycle, and one of the requirements of our program is to attend school. Our students will attend 2 days of school in Japan. The Zama students will attend 2 days of school here. So our trip schedule is based around when school starts or ends, depending upon where we're going, so we can get those 2 days in, because it was found that that was very important to the city of Smyrna to make sure the students got to experience life in school. And they did learn that the Zama students clean their own school. They don't have janitors do it for them. Also, recently, the city of Smyrna dedicated a park called Zama Park in downtown Smyrna, and it was attended by the new council general for that dedication. Zama was supposed to be here for that dedication, but because of COVID, that trip was canceled. And like some others, we're negotiating right now whether they're coming or not this summer. My personal guess is they probably won't be, but that decision hasn't been made yet. Also, like Seth mentioned, we have a real large Japanese company in our area. It's called Nissan. They do a lot of things, have a lot of companies associated with them. They're the ones that helped get this program started. I was asked to join it probably sometime in the late 1990s, and I've been on it ever since. The program actually started in 1980, and in the middle 1980s with adults that were going back and forth and more of a business kind of thing. And then they decided to turn it over to the kids. And so about 1998 or so, it got turned over to the kids to be the exchange. And that's how it got started. So what I'm going to do is I have 20 years worth of pictures. I've been to Japan personally because of my work, probably 30 times for work, and probably 6 times as a chaperone. So I have tons of pictures, but rather than bore you with my pictures, which are similar to what you've seen tonight from other people, I have a presentation that was done for us in 2017 by the Zama students about what Zama is and what Zama is like. And you'll find a few of the things on the slides are duplicate because they were broken up into 5 groups, and some of the groups had some of the slides that were very similar. So what I'll do is I'll share that now, and pay attention to the very last slide because it's a link to a YouTube video. It's a 13-minute video that talks about our trip, our exchange here in 2017. But since it was 13 minutes, I chose not to show it tonight because it was too long. But you can go to YouTube and watch it anytime, and it's got some good information on it. So I'll get that started now. So remember, this was done by the students, and so they did this whole thing and they presented it to us. We're talking about some basic information and events, and shows you where they're located. This is Kanagawa Prefecture, and Zama is in the middle of Kanagawa Prefecture. The population is 128,000, and the area is 17.57 square kilometers. And pretty soon they'll show you what it's like in Smyrna, comparatively speaking. Zama has a very, very large kite festival in the spring. This kite is very large. You can see it compared to people when you get up close to it. They also have a sunflower. The sunflower is their state flower, their city flower. These other products are made in Zama. This is spring water. They have springs there. This is the Zamarine cookie. These are all things that they produce there. They have lots of parks. You can see the cherry blossoms. This is a website of Zama City, and you can easily find that just by looking for it. This is their city mascot called Zamarine. It's a fairy-like replication of a sunflower. This is the next group. It's about 1/3 the size of Smyrna, but its population is 130,000 compared to our 40,000. So you can see they got lots in a smaller space. They got their tree is the fragrant olive oil, the titmouse, and you got the sunflower. This is the view from their city hall. As you can see, cherry blossom time. And there's a picture of a kite. So you can see how many people it takes to hold the strings of a kite. It's an army. Some more things that they make in Zama. These are picture of rice fields in the springtime. It looks like this. In the summertime, autumn, and winter when they harvest it. There's their bottled water, come right out of the ground. This is the third presentation. I'm going through these pretty fast. I don't want to take up too much time. This shows you where it's located. It's about an hour from Tokyo and about an hour from Yokohama. It's sort of in between. There's Zama, and there's Yokohama up there. And in this picture here, you can see Mount Fuji. This you can see on a clear day anytime from Zama. Mount Fuji, it's a really nice site. And there's Kamakura, there's the big Buddha. Camp Zama, Army base is also located in Zama. We always go there and visit, and they prepare a hamburger meal for us. And this is a sunflower festival that had 550,000 sunflowers. This is Camp Zama, headquarters for U.S. Army. This is talking about the earthquake of 3/11, 6 years ago when this was made. Now it's 10 years ago. Talking about getting woke up out of their sleep. Some of this is repeat. That kite festival has been going on for 100 years. This is the mayor of past mayor of Zama and some of the students. And keep in mind, this was all done by the students. Our students range anywhere from 13 to 18. There's obviously a lot of fireflies in Zama. Here's the YouTube video link. Between the S and the E over here, there's an underscore that you can't see. But if you go here, I watched it today. It's 13 minutes long. It's a really nice video. I'm done.
Mark, thank you so much. It's really wonderful to hear about Zama and especially to see the students' presentations. That is really wonderful. And like I said, festivals across the country of Japan, the Kite Festival. So my question, Mark, and I'll ask this question later as well. I'm hoping to come down to visit the Zama Park down in Smyrna. Is it big enough for us to fly some kites down there as well? So
I don't think so. It's a nice park. It's right up alongside the railroad. It's long and narrow, but there's too much overhead obstructions to be safe to fly a kite, in my opinion.
got it. So we'll have to go visit the park and find somewhere else in Smyrna that has a large open space for us to fly some kites in honor of your sister city partnership.
There's another there that has an F-16 plane from when Jeff Koos crash landed with the
Blue Angels.
The Blue Angels, and that park is huge. You can fly anything you want there.
And that's a great allusion as well to Zama with they have some military history as well. So that's a great honor to visit both parks as well. So thank you for that little tip. Mark, thank you so much. Also, I love that one of the videos, and I was going to ask as well, I mentioned this, in Kamakura, they are known to have the second largest Buddha statue. I think it's over 11 meters. And one of the presentations from the students had a picture of that. Kamakura and Zama are both in Kanagawa Prefecture, so not too far from each other. And last but not least, on the individual presentations, I would like to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie, go ahead and unmute and take off your video. Stephanie Stevens is a board member and student exchange leader of the Tsuru-Hendersonville Friendship Committee. And go ahead and dive right in. Let's learn a little bit more about the partnership.
Okay, so our partnership has been established for about 38 years now. It actually started when a local church called Bluegrass Baptist Church went on 3 mission trips starting in 1979, and it was so welcome there that the mayor there and the mayor here at the time both decided that it was time to establish a sister city relationship, and so they did that. Both cities still actually have committees who oversee all of the exchanges and the plans that we do, and those will involve sometimes the mayor and other government leaders, of course, students, teachers, and other adults. So we do several different exchanges. So our first official delegation after the establishment of that was in 1983. And every time we do have those visits, we make sure that all the city and committee leaders get together at a special summit just to kind of plan for like what's going to be the next upcoming thing. In 1990, a couple of local principals signed an actual exchange agreement within the high schools, so that our trips do actually also involve, well, the high school trips, let me say, do involve us going to their school and them coming to our school for, gosh, I think they came last time for about a week. We went there for 2 weeks, but we were in their actual school for 7 days. And which point we did all kinds of culture classes, which was absolutely amazing. The tea ceremony, we played the kodo, we did the formal clothes. I mean, it was amazing. They learned how to cook. We did everything. It was super cool. In 2012, we did open that up to all of the schools in the county, middle school and high school. Our delegations are usually about 15 to 20 high school students from 8th to 12th grade that we take over there. And our last trip for the high school students was in 2018, which I did lead, and it was absolutely amazing. We took 13 students and 2 adults from 6 schools in the county, which I think that's the most schools that we have ever actually taken. So it's really, we really do like to involve as many different schools as we possibly can. We do that exchange with high school students every 3 years. And of course, we had a delegation who was going to come in here March 2020, which was going to be right before spring break. And of course, everything had to be canceled. And we were going to actually take an adult delegation October 2020. And of course, that one was canceled as well. So we do actually also include the Junior Chamber of Commerce. When every 5 years, they will bring a group of middle school students over from Japan, and that's a much shorter stay, obviously, because the age difference is much different. And that last trip was in August 2017 when they brought over 26 middle school students. We have a pretty long history of JET students, or JET teachers, excuse me, going over to Japan. We have actually had 6 JET teachers from here. 2 of them have been placed directly in Tsuru, which is pretty cool. Some of them are the grandchildren of members of our actual board. We do plan to, of course, get another high school delegation from there to come here as soon as travel bans are lifted, and then go ahead and proceed again with our adult and student delegation following that. Of course, it all just depends on when everything opens back up. But it has been an amazing program. So, and that is all I have.
Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing. Really exciting to hear about that partnership, and the JET program near and dear to my heart. That's what brought me to Japan. So I love that there is that relationship there. We are finished now with the panel presentation. So I'd love to invite everybody to start up your videos. And if you'd like to, you're in charge of your mute button. So I want to welcome back Seth, Leanne, Sarah, Celeste, Mina, and Mark. And we have a couple great questions. I want to jump right in. Terry asked a great question that I want to present to anyone who would like to jump in. Leanne kind of alluded to this a little bit, but besides the pandemics, what is the biggest challenge for enhancing the ties and strengthening those relationships between the sister city sites?
I personally think the knowing the Japanese like I do, they're very warm and welcoming people, and basically just communicating with them just strengthens your ability on that alone.
Communication, and the Japanese culture and people are very warm for sure. So thank you for that question, Terry. I do appreciate it. Seth, what I would love to know is talk to me a little bit more about what kind of benefits or outcomes have you seen between the university exchanges between both the Tennessee Wesleyan University and Nagasaki Wesleyan University? Have you been able to foster any relationships from students that have traveled one way or the other?
We have. Now, I'm a millennial that's not on social media, but from when we hosted the 21 high school students from Shinsei Gakuen, my wife's on social media and has maintained contact with a few of those students that we helped sponsor for a couple weeks here in Athens and here at our home. And I wish I had that beautiful photo of the 21 students and our Friendly City Sister Cities committee out there on my back deck with the big sunflowers. I know we talked about sunflowers a minute ago. I grew sunflowers in my garden that year, and they were just amazed by them. And so having those relationships with the university has really strengthened and really added to what we can do as a committee that's under the municipal government. Is our university is a private university, so they have their own funding and they have their own programs, and we're able to gain those partnerships and do a lot of things that just under the municipality that we wouldn't be able to do. So that's been very powerful for us.
That's really great to hear. We have another live question. Thank you, John, for that. I love this question as well. So I want to throw this out to anyone who has had those relationships, but I know that Mark, Leanne, and Seth had spoken directly about going to school specifically, but are there ways to leverage these sister city partnerships to get Japanese language taught in Tennessee public schools? Do we see that might be something that we could see in the future? Leanne, perhaps have you, with your students in, especially during the summer as they go into Japan, with the homestay situation, have you seen any of that relationship that might be able to bring some Japanese language to Japan or to Nashville?
Well, I know this was years before. I'm not a McMinnville native, but I do know that they did used to have Japanese classes offered through our school system. We too have a Japanese company in town, Yorozu, who is one of our big sponsors of our program. And so they have Japanese families who come and live. So we have a sizable Japanese contingency in our schools, but I guess there's no formal language instruction now. I do try before we go and before we host to have little language seminars, just basic phrases and things to help them get along. And of course, with everybody carrying one of these around, Google Translate and whatnot, it's certainly easier to communicate than it was back when the program began in 1993. But I think that would be a wonderful additional language to be able to offer in our schools, particularly since we have those in our community who speak the language.
Absolutely. And talking about that, Mina, I want to point a question to you, and then I have a couple questions for the Sister Cities of Nashville specifically. But being a Japanese native living here in Tennessee with the Sister City Partnership, what are some things that you are excited to bring to Nashville and Tennessee, and what are some things that you would like to see happen, perhaps?
Well, I am excited to see, since I joined Sister City Nashville, I'm discovering so much interest from native Nashvillian to the Japanese culture, and not only food, but all the culture. So I am so excited to be able to help and bridge the gap because I happen to know both culture. So that will be so rewarding for me to be that person in between. The future, what I want to do is I want to grow that to more, in our sister city Kamakura relationship, we don't have student exchange yet. So we want to expand that as well. And also what I would like to, we've been talking with counterpart in Kamakura is like a women's group exchange. We do have so much interest in each other's like a daily life as a woman in here and women over there. So all this group are kind of interested in learning from each other. So I'm excited to bring those kind of opportunity in reality as a future plan.
I love that idea, and especially to bring it up during March, Women's History Month. So thank you for mentioning that. And as well with Sarah and Celeste, and Sarah specifically, with the Nashville Sister Cities organization, what are some things that you have learned with some of the other Sister City partnerships that might, or have learned from the Kamakura relationship? How can we strengthen and grow, and how can we as Nashvillians or Tennesseans, help foster these relationships?
So I kind of want to go back to that first question about what is, aside from COVID, what is the biggest challenge? And I do think that communication is one of the biggest challenges. I don't think that is isolated to our Japanese sister city relationships. I think that's just a human thing. So I really do agree with Mark that the more effort you make to communicate, I mean, this is what these relationships are all about, right? And if you've ever experienced visiting with someone or traveling to, having a guest come who doesn't share your language or your customs, there's still a million ways to communicate. And there's still a lot of ways to get to know each other and share things. Laughter's the same. You're definitely going to find things that are funny. Everyone can bond over food. I think just the biggest thing people can do to stay connected is to just keep an open mind and just not be afraid to, you're going to run up against some challenges as we go through these things, but just don't be afraid to find different ways to communicate. It doesn't all have to be through language.
And especially with that partnership with Kamakura, music.
Exactly.
I remember back in the day where communication was by a fax machine. That was it. So today we have it made compared to then.
Exactly. And it's what's great about things are so visual. And Mark, like with some of those presentations that you shared, are really exciting to see that the visual, the pictures, you can explain it in so many words. And if you can't explain the words too well, if it's not your native language, those pictures tell so much. I would love to be carrying or trying to be one of those hundreds of people holding one of those massive kites. It was really exciting to see. And Mark, because you jumped in there as well, talk to me a little bit about, I heard that you have a story about how you got involved with the sister city, specifically with Zama. So talk to us a little bit about how you got involved.
Well, of course, I work for Nissan, and they were trying to expand the program a little bit. The city was, and Nissan asked me if I wanted to participate. Of course, I said yes. And then next thing I tried to do is get my daughter to join the program, but she didn't want to go to Japan because she's afraid she'd starve to death. She didn't think she could eat the food. And so my next tact was to have her host. So we hosted, and that went over great. A student came over, cooked Japanese food for her. She found out that she could eat and survive. Next year she went. So that worked real well, and I've been involved ever since, and that was since 1999.
So exciting. Thank you for that. Let's see what other questions I might have. There's a comment in one of our chats. I'm trying to get a little more information, so I have that question there. But let's see, what are some other, Stephanie, actually, what can you think of? Can you think of more things you could do with more community support that you have currently, and what more community support in the Hendersonville area to help foster those relationships with the communication even?
Well, as far as community support, I think that we have in the last couple of years been working really hard to try to get the information out there to all of the schools. I think it was kind of isolated to just maybe one or two at first, since they were the ones who established that initial relationship. And so we really just kind of put it out there and said, you know what, why are we limiting this to just these schools? Let's get it out there to everybody. And so we did that. And like I said, the last trip that I led over there, we had representatives from 6 different schools, which was pretty awesome, I thought. And so as a result, those kids have subsequently hosted kids, told all their friends, and it just spreads by word of mouth, because you do end up building a real relationship with those people. And we are still in touch with those people. And so we have had all levels from middle school to high school, and even a subsequent college student who was kind of outside of the program, but his actual aunt was our tour guide in Tokyo. And so she asked if he could come here, and he did, and it was amazing. So that was just kind of a side thing that happened. But I think as far as community support, it's really just getting the word out there, making sure that people aren't afraid. I think a lot of people are so afraid of this foreign exchange, and it's going to be so difficult, and you can't communicate. And Sarah's right. It's much more than just a language. You can show love to people without words. And so a lot of that is exactly what you do. Like I said, these are real relationships, and they're lasting relationships. So the more you just get it out there to everybody, I think the more people you'll finally keep getting involved.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other suggestions on how we as community members can get involved with these organizations? And I might recommend, if you have a link to your website, perhaps drop it into the chat so people can learn more as well. And
I would add one more thing too, and that is, I think Sarah's done a great job with social media. This day and age, that's how a lot of young people communicate with one another. And we do too, even if we are slightly beyond young people. But I think that social media plays a big role in our ability to reach out to the community. We're also very lucky because JAST and Sister Cities of Nashville are both in Nashville, and we really do consider ourselves partners in this whole endeavor, along with the Consul General's office. I think that sometimes we find that the Kamakura side, there's a little bit of reticence to send students over here because they just haven't done it yet. And that's what we are pushing, because we think that once they start coming, it'll be amazing. And then again, social media can take off.
Absolutely. Huge things. Okay, so Seth, I love this idea of the pumpkin festival. And so it's a great way to really teach people in Athens and McMinn County and in East Tennessee about Japanese culture. And so what are some other ways that you get the word out to students and to other members of the community about what you do?
So we include staff from the city schools, and we have brought in their director of schools and have hosted a discussion. I know we had the Oak Ridge sister cities visit with us and tell us about their exchange program. So we're learning from other Tennessee sister city communities. And that's kind of where the idea of maybe, younger kids might not be able to travel and parents are going to be wary of that, things of that nature. But 8th grade, I think, is a good time for children to experience that, and parents are kind of okay with letting them go. And so that's kind of the birth of the thought of building that program out. And absolutely. I loved the biggest thing that we've got going on that draws people into our community, 15,000 people into our small downtown, is Pumpkin Town. And we set a booth up just like any other vendor, but we're only there. We're not selling anything, asking for donations. We're only there for the educational experience, and kids are curious. They want to know what this is. And when we give them a fan with their name on it, that's a memory. My children, this was 2 years ago, and my children still have these fans up in their rooms and are just so proud, and they want to know more about it. So we use people's own curiosity to draw them in and then educate them and then make them part of our global community.
I love it. I'm a bit of a hoarder. I've got a box of all my collections of things that I picked up from those festivals. Those fans are great memories to hang on to forever. That who knows that when you, as a child or a young person, when you see something of a new culture now, who knows in 5, 10, 15 years that you come across it again and remember that wonderful relationship and culture learning that you experienced in your area that you want to travel to and explore more. Shifting a little bit, Leanne, because this is something I'm curious about. I work in nonprofits personally and working in education. Leanne, talk to us a little bit more about funding. And so I can imagine this is something that's on everybody's mind, especially now, but Sister City Partnership hosted by community organizations, but also you mentioned that you write grants, and how else, and if anybody else has something else to add after Leanne is finished, how can we, where else do you find support and funding for these opportunities?
Well, it's a challenge, particularly now. And the way that the nonprofit funding works is that both the city and the county each year open up. And so there's various groups in town that they support. And so I go through the process of writing, explaining what it is that our group does, how it benefits both the city and the county, forming the mutual relationships, and come up with a proposed budget, whether we're hosting or visiting. Obviously, a hosting year is much more expensive than when we go. We incur all the expenses other than their initial flight to get to the gateway city. And then at that point, we pick up. And so I guess we fingers crossed each year that the city and the county have it in their budget to appropriate those funds to us. Said other organizations, local banks, I approach about sponsoring things, but we're always looking because, in order to host a group of that size, by the time everybody participates, our 10, their 10, it's a sizable expense to do those. And so I would very much love if anybody had information about grants that might be available or other sponsors, things like that you have, since I guess we're not guaranteed the money each year, and that it ebbs and flows depending on what the budgets are within the county.
Great. Does anyone else have anything else to add or suggest for some of our fellow go ahead, Seth.
So not only do we have the guaranteed city funding that's included in our budget annually, And we also use a foundation that has nonprofit status, so folks can make donations. But we maximize. I told you what a wonderful partner Denso is, being a Japanese-owned manufacturer in our community. They're already invested here. They have numerous expatriates that are over usually for several years, and then they go back to Japan. They also are major contributors to this program, and we wouldn't be successful without them. So maximizing, I know several of you mentioned you have Japanese manufacturers, you have a relationship there. And I know everybody's nodding that we do go, and we make those asks to make sure that they're invested in the program as well.
Absolutely. I mean, always ask. So I ask these questions. Sarah, in addition to the strong social media campaign that you have going on, what are some other ways that you promote and get the word out and publicize about the Nashville Sister Cities?
So one of the initiatives that we are trying to take this year, one of the benefits of COVID has been that we've been able to kind of take a step back and think about the way we've been doing things, and how can we do it better. And I've been working with my director of student exchanges to revamp our student exchange program and grow that program. And so one of the things that we are trying to implement will be an academic ambassador program, where we're going to really try hard to make better connections with the school systems here in Davidson County, both the public and the private schools, and give ownership of these programs to admin or principals or teachers within the school, teach them about our programs, make them feel much more a part of Sister Cities, and let the relationship grow organically through that. We were talking earlier about, what's some of the best ways to grow our programs. And I think, one of the things I kept hearing is all these student exchange programs. And I really do think that a love of global learning starts at a young age. I think it can start at any age, but I think that it is just so much more beneficial when you get your first taste of that at a younger age, because the seed's planted and it has so much more time to sprout. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is really build a more robust and deeper relationship with the school systems here.
And that's brilliant. Again, bring it back to schools and education. I absolutely love it. We have time for a few more questions. Another one that I'm curious about as well is, so Mark and Stephanie, could either of you talk about how volunteers are involved or communities and families with your, who support the student exchange program?
We have 9 members on our committee. All but 2 of them have been on the committee for a very long time, relatively speaking, anywhere from myself, which is about 20 years, down to some with 16, 12, whatever it is, number of years. Most of the volunteers that we have outside of the committee are usually parents related to the students that are in the program that help out during the 3-year cycle that they're in. And we do lots of fundraising. As a matter of fact, on March the 20th, we're having a drive-through chili dinner, where the chili is there, but you drive through, pick up your thing, you have a ticket, you get it, and you leave, and we get money for doing that. So we're earning money. We've had steak dinners, we've had all sorts of dinners, but we're having to be a little creative now because of COVID, and so that's coming up. But our system is set up where 1/3 of our funding comes from the town of Smyrna, 1/3 of the funding comes from fundraising, and 1/3 of the money comes from the parents or the family of the student that's going. So everybody shares, and everybody has to work hard because they're providing some of the funding.
Okay, we too have a board of about 7 or 8 members, and the large majority of them have been on that committee. Some of them since it actually started 38 years ago. There are just a couple of us who are new to the board. We get a little bit of like reimbursement when we buy, say, the gifts or something for when we go over there from the city of Hendersonville, but otherwise we primarily operate off of donations. And then all of the other volunteers that would be involved would be, of course, our host families, which are absolutely incredible. And then, of course, as you know, if you've been over to Japan, you know they go above and beyond to make their hospitality is it's incredible. It can't be matched. And so we really have a lot of meetings here with our host families to explain to them what it looks like over there. And we kind of want it to look the same here, right? You want to do exactly the same thing. And so those families have been absolutely amazing in doing that. But otherwise, we really don't have any other funding, but I definitely would be interested in getting information about those grants or other things like that. And I don't really know that we have a local Japanese industry local to us here, but I will definitely be checking that out. So thanks for that information.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all so much. Last question, I'm going to throw it out. Celeste, perhaps, do you have anything more to share about your experience with the, as a co-chair of the Japan Committee for the Sister Cities of Nashville?
I would say my experience is somewhat similar to everyone that whose faces I see right now. It's really thrilling to be a part of a cultural exchange that is beneficial to the city itself, but also beneficial to the citizens. And I agree with Sarah. My experience started when I was 18. The younger we can get our children involved, the more engaged I think they'll be, especially with this global climate today. And so I encourage all of us to continue to be ambassadors for our sister city, not only among folks who already know about us, but just friends and family. It's important to just spread the word, because the experience that is opened up to everyone who participates in sister cities is beyond compare.
Absolutely. And something else about the Sister Cities of Nashville is you are the ones that organized the Cherry Blossom Walk during the Cherry Blossom Festival. Last year, everything was virtual, and I'm still waiting to hear about this year. But with that, I want to say thank you to everybody, to Mark Michelson, Leanne Stewart, Seth Summer, Sarah Lingo, Celeste Wilson, Mina Johnson, and Stephanie Stevens. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us tonight or in the future on the JAST YouTube site, and to our sponsor partnership tonight with the World Affairs Council. And again, last thing is, of course, we are really excited for our upcoming programs with JAST, the Japan America Society of Tennessee. Keep an eye on the website, JASTN.org, for more information and to register. The upcoming festival is going to be, I know there's going to be a screen up that's going to post a little bit more. That is the Tennessee Japan Forum and the JAST annual meeting, Perspectives on Resilience and Revival. What a theme for this year, resilience, the future of Japan-US relations, and expanding Tennessee's reach. And we definitely had a good taste of that tonight with the Sister Cities committees and organizations. Seth, I'm not going to try one more time with your tongue twister of a name, but again, thank you so much for our panelists. Thank you, JAST, for having me on this tonight, and thank you all for joining us. We hope you have learned something new, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. And don't forget to head outside as the cherry blossoms bloom towards the end of March.
Thank you.
Thank you.